So they finally did it. We're finally here. Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2. Last week I tried to warn you and tell you that this is the episode that Joel is going to die in. Turns out that's exactly what happened. Joel did die. And I feel like this entire time, ever since we started the channel, every time I bring up Naughty Dog, I shit on them. And every time I bring up The Last of Us Part 2, I shit on them. But today, I'm giving my immediate reaction to Season 2, Episode 2 of The Last of Us, because it is a direct adaptation of where everything went wrong for me in the original game. Did I think that this was better? Did I think it was worse? What are my thoughts moving forward? It's my immediate reaction, so things are still a little raw. But starting off the bat, I think I'm going to do the one thing that I haven't done when I'm talking about The Last of Us or Naughty Dog on this channel, and that is praising it a little bit. I'm going to shit on it still too, so don't get too comfortable, but I will praise this as much as I think I can. Now, again, still raw, might be fumbling through this a little bit. I did watch it after the fact, after it aired. I didn't watch it live. I watched it after it premiered because WrestleMania was on tonight. Congratulations, John Cena, on becoming the 17-time world champion. I don't really know why Travis Scott was there, but, you know, go Cena. So yeah, Season 2, Episode 2 of The Last of Us was going to be the pivot point of figuring out the story that they were going to tell. Were they going to change everything at least a little bit, and we're going to go a different route when it comes to the story? Or were they going to adapt it pretty closely to the way they did in the game, and they're going to go down the same path? Now we come to find out that they went the route with Joel dying. This is still going to be the same story going to Seattle, which you could all anticipate. However, what I can say, praising them a little bit, is I hate the majority of the things that they did with Joel's death and the whole... I hated a lot of it, most of it. I hate most of that game because I've already said it before. It's just not the story that I wanted. And even though there's things about the story I don't think is bad, it's just, I think it's kind of a mess. Now, with that being said, as far as if you're going to adapt that story, if you're so hell-bent on telling that story, as far as what they did with the show, praising them a little bit, I feel like this was the best route they could have gone. Sorry, I'm going to raise you up a little bit here. And what do I mean by that when I say it's the best route they could have gone? I think that the way they adapted this moment from the game is much better in a lot of different instances, and I'll kind of talk about it to the best of my ability, and I'm going to try and explain what I mean by that. Starting off the episode, I'm trying to figure out how I want to say this. I feel like this episode of the show was directed very well, so congratulations there for starters. I felt like their way of going about this in the show to make it different from the game was taking a lot of the suggestions online of how you can try to make this story better. If you're so hell-bent on telling the story, I feel like they took a lot of the suggestions online and brought it into this world or this adaptation to fix a lot of the problems. For example, off the bat, you know who Abby is. You know what she's about. You have the bad dream of her, and that's a really good scene. And even her monologue to Joel, it's significantly longer in this, where she's explaining who she is, what she's doing, because it was so hard in the game to redeem her after an act like that. And don't get me wrong, it's going to be really hard to redeem her for me after that too, but I guess that's the whole point, is nobody is redeemable. Everything that Joel did is certainly not redeemable, and that does reign true, but I'm not going to get into all that bullshit right now. But you figure out who she is, one from the flashback, the dream, and they also, when she was in the original episode, you kind of figure out that she clearly had some attachments there, and then you find out who, you could probably guess that the doctor was her dad, and then she ends up just straight up telling Joel, yeah, the doctor's my dad. So you understand why she's there, what her motives are, how many people Joel killed, which is 18 apparently. You just start to understand it a little bit more. And I felt like that was the better route to go, because it probably won't be as hard to redeem her later on. I can imagine it yeah, What else? They switched up. So much is different. The separate plot point of the town, the Jackson fight, the zombies or the infected coming to the town, and them really switching up the roles that people play. Dina goes with Joel. Ellie and Jesse go together. Tommy and Maria stay back to defend Jackson from the infected. All of that was the correct decision, because that all does separate things to fix a lot of the issues and poor writing that was in the game. For example, now the Tommy and Maria thing, Tommy not being with Joel, I understand why people would get upset about that, but it serves a purpose for why Dina is with Joel. But Tommy and Maria together defending the town, it shines some light on Tommy's character. It shows how badass it can really be. It gives us some much needed action that's been missing in a lot of the show. The fight was sick. It puts Tommy in a really vulnerable spot to show why he would be so willing to run after them in Seattle. And it also kind of showcases Tommy's abilities, because for the most part we haven't really seen Tommy kick ass before, and he showed here that he is a highly capable individual, and him going alone to Seattle, that makes more sense now. Not that it didn't make sense in the game, but showing how capable Tommy really is. I like that. I just think it was a very much needed thing, because the chaos in Jackson also creates the chaos in the outside world, everything that's going on in the mountains, and leads to why Joel ends up in Abby's group's hands in the first place. In the game, it was really stupid. They just run a party. They run into each other. They willingly give their names up for no reason at all. And they go there surrounded by armed men willingly, all willy-nilly. And Joel, as everybody has continuously criticized up to for the last 5 years, would never do that. That would never be the case. And in the show, they fix that. Joel is forced to go up into the mountain. He's forced to give up his identity and what he's doing. He's forced into a situation that is a lot more realistic. Sure, he runs into Abby, but he's on patrols. A lot of people bitch about him like running into Abby. I don't think that that's a big issue. It's a big issue that they willingly give up their name and just walk in there and not are armed or scared at all. But like, Abby convinces them, my team are armed, we can help you defend Jackson, get back to Jackson. So Joel is hesitant, but he ends up going there. Whenever they get there, he's trying to protect Dina and warm Dina up, because they did a really good thing at pairing up Joel and Dina and showing the relationship in the previous episode, where Dina is kind of like a second daughter to Joel. And Joel, immediately when he gets to the tower, wants everybody to arm up and get back down there. He never gives up his name. Dina gives up his name, calling out to him, which is far more realistic of a situation than Tommy just walking in there and saying, "Hi, this is me, I'm Tommy, and this is Joel." It's small things like that. It fixes it. Also, on top of that, Joel admitting what he did to Abby and the team, because if he didn't, they would kill Dina. He had to do that. So all of that just kind of fixes those little issues and problems that were in the game. That's bad writing. Taking a second swing at it, a lot of those things are fixed here. The pairing of Jesse and Ellie, I thought, was the correct move, because it gives you some much needed time to build up the relationship between Jesse and Ellie. I thought that was much needed. It just kind of fleshes out Jesse's character a little bit more, which I think is the right move. He plays more of the leader in this, and he's very smart. He's much more smarter in here than he is in the game, and they even willingly say, like, you're going to be the leader of Jackson one day, but you're not today, so, like, chill out. But I feel like pairing Jesse with Ellie allows them to kind of flesh that out a little bit more. So when he shows up later, it'll be more impactful, which is good. I already talked about the fight in Jackson. All of that was sick and awesome. Ellie and Jesse being teamed up only really serves to kind of stretch out Jesse a little bit more, but Dina and Joel being paired up explains why a lot of those small little things would happen. Joel's forced there. Like I said, Joel's forced in that situation as a last resort to protect Dina from her frostbite. Their names are giving up in passing. They never really willingly give up their names, because Joel wouldn't. Abby just heard it when Dina yelled out the name to Joel, which is something that's a little more realistic to happen. And Joel going there to try and get everybody to go down there and help. It just all kind of fixes things. to the death itself, Abby still yelling at Mel because she sucks as a person. That checks out. The actor who plays Owen looks a lot like Jake Gyllenhaal. Does he not? Am I just making that up? They did the golf club thing. I did not think they were going to do the golf club thing. I think that they toned down the brutality in this one a little bit, kinda. Instead of a final blow to Joel's head being a smash of the golf club, she takes the broken piece and stabs him in the neck. I'm not sure I really need to see that. That was kind of unneeded. You could have just done a shoulder shot. That would have been fine. Again, leading up to the fight or the death. I like how she goes on the monologue, she's been thinking about this, has planned this her whole life, and then doesn't get the satisfaction because Joel ends up cutting her off and says, oh, can you just shut the fuck up and get it over with? Joel in the game just said, save whatever speech you got and just go ahead and get this over with. Joel listened in the show and then was tired of hearing her go about her villain monologue that she's been planning her whole life and just said, shut the fuck up. I can't stop talking about the small detail that Joel doesn't try to do anything and is kind of accepting of it because if he doesn't, Dina will die. I like that's the route that they went. Abby's team is being a little similar to the game, but is kind of freaked out about all of this. They really don't want to go about doing this at all. So I think that's cool. The golf club ends up breaking 3 shots in, which is a little more realistic, I guess. Ellie showing up, and then them allowing Ellie to be awake instead of getting knocked out to crawl over to Joel. I think that is a good addition. Shows how much she really loves him, and also is heavily implied that the porch scene does happen. She turns around and walks back, and they do make up. And they talked a lot about how she wanted to go out with patrol with him, and he wanted to go out and patrol with her, but it just didn't line up. So I like those changes. What else? I like the handshaking was a bit much, so it was very Glenn in The Walking Dead. It feels like that's where that was taken from. But I liked how when Ellie yelled at Joel to get up, he really does try to get up, and he just can't. And he in the game, he sees her and is just so out of it that he can't. But in the show, he sees her, notices her, and still tries to fight and stand up, and he's just, it's a lot. It is a lot. But overall, you can say the stab is a bit much because it's right in the neck. But something about that is just less brutal than the golf club shot to the head, which I think is the better route to go about it if you're gonna go about it that way. So yeah, overall, a lot, as far as, if you're gonna adapt it, I felt like they did a really good job at adapting that. Now, the problem is, and this is where I'm going to get back to it, I don't want that story. And that's the thing I've been harking on this entire time is I've said, I believe in the past, that you could make it work. You could make it better. It's just not what I think the majority of people want to see. I think that as far as it being a TV show, it lines up better. Because Pedro Pascal is, without a doubt, leaving the main cast of the show, of course. I mean, he'll be popping up in the flashbacks and whatever, but, he's got to film The Mandalorian, he's got to film The Fantastic Four. Ultimately, I think that maybe they were kind of backed into a corner where they were always going to tell this, I think. But I think that even if they didn't want to, they couldn't. Pedro Pascal is just not going to be there. So yeah, I feel like as far as adapting that, which is so controversial and so hard, I felt like they went about it better, a lot better. But still, the problem is, it's just not the story that I think the majority of the people want. And I feel like between episode 2 and episode 3, you're going to see a large drop-off of viewership. Whether those are, Pedro Pascal fans, or it's people who are bitter about the original game still, or it's people who are just why is the main character getting killed off in the second episode in the show and just kind of deleting it. It's a similar effect to Glenn in The Walking Dead, but Glenn wasn't, the main character. But with that being said, also on top of it, this was not nearly as brutal as the Glenn thing was, which I think a lot of people were worried about. So yeah, I think that they went the right route as far as adapting that story, but I still didn't want this story. So I pondered on it. Like, am I gonna go watch episode 3? I'm gonna probably go watch episode 3 to see what they do with the rest of it. Oh, also I wanted to do like a brief shout out that Kaitlyn Dever was actively trying to get them up on the mountaintop, even when Joel was like, I fucking no, I'm going back, and she just said we're right there. We literally just right there. So I like that, and I liked how they knocked out Dina, really going about how they were not willing to hurt anybody else until they broke Ellie's ribs. So yeah, I guess I'm excited to see what they do with episode 3. As far as like how they break the news to Tommy, how they kind of handle all the grief stuff, because what I do think they did well in the game is kind of playing with that emotion and handling the grief side of things really well. Walking through the house, seeing all the old things, smelling the jacket. Again, you know, it's just like there's good things about it. It's just not the story we want. But Last of Us Season 2, Episode 2, I feel like did that better than the game did. And let's just see what happens moving forward. I'll see you guys next week for another one. Peace, love, adios, and bye-bye.